with me until she arrives. So we've got a slightly unusual item to begin the meeting tonight, which I'm very happy about, which is presenting a special certificate of recognition of service to PC Mark Popel, who is with us. Would you like to join us? And we will present you. Connor would like to take a photograph. I'd just like to say I've known PC Popel for a long time, and I've personally benefited, as has my partner, from your listening services. I probably don't remember, but many years ago we were very grateful. I believe you've worked for the town for many, many years. Yes. And I'm sure there are 100 people here who could rejoice in your contribution, which thank you very much. Thank you very much. This is a certificate of recognition of service.
Thank you.
And we also have a small thing for your desk of a kind of model of the town seal.
Oh, lovely. Thank you very much again. Thank you. That's brilliant. Wonderful. Thank you. Thank you all very, very much. Thank you.
Thank you.
Ah, unusual ones to take photographs.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks, Mark.
Is there anything you'd like to say?
I'd spent 13 years as the beat manager for Glastonbury. I can honestly say I enjoyed every moment of it. The High Street is an absolutely fabulous place, and I'm so grateful I can look around and I still recognise, I can identify, with faces here. Obviously, Councillor Henderson, Councillor Napper from the old days. So to speak, it's great to see Mr. Dowden sat on the side there. I haven't seen him, for quite a while, and I really did. I had a ball in Glastonbury. We won awards. We had the Community Watch started. We had the radio link. At one point, all the shops were on little handheld radios, talking to each other. And we'd won awards. We introduced the designated public place, which gave me a seizure of alcohol from some of the street drinkers. And we looked at various different things, and I really enjoyed it. And to be honest, it just whizzed by. When I look back now, and my total service is almost 23 years, and it seems like 5 years. It just really has whizzed by. And sadly, now I'm an old man looking at retirement.
Yes.
Thank you, and I'd like to thank you all again for inviting me along this evening. I did eventually cross the Brew and go to Street Parish Towns. Sorry to put that on there, but I'm going to be honest. So I have spent a few years across it street, but I found myself coming back to Glastonbury quite frequently during the weekend, during the weekdays. As we all know, lockdown, whichever side you're on, produced challenges to us, and I found myself over here quite a bit during those times as well. So again, thank you all, very, very much. It's I'm absolutely flattered. And I'm overwhelmed to be here this evening, so thank you all very much. And I have been interviewed as well. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Well done, Mark.
Thank you very much.
Oh yes, but we do public participation first. So we've now got 5 members of the public wishing to speak to us. 5 is slightly more than usual, but that's great. I would ask you to stay, if possible, within the 3 minutes that we're all allowed for our little speeches. We've even got a town hourglass which measures 3 minutes. Anyway, hopefully it won't be necessary, but perhaps we could have Fiona Helmer first, about Manor House second community garden. Is Fiona? Yes.
Hi. Hi. Thanks for this time to address everyone. I wanted to update the Town Council on the play park at the back of Manor House Road at the bottom. which I and some other people have been planting up and tending. And to say that it's looking very beautiful, what we have done, and we've got lots more plans for it, which I think will be much easier if and when, I'm going to say when, the land is back in our ownership as a town. And I understand you're doing that, Paul, is that right? Are you looking into that coming back to us? Anyway, I'm hoping, because the mysteries of getting information from the Somerset County Council as well, and yes, just I still haven't managed to find out the name of the man who so kindly donated this land. If anybody knows, anybody who knows, who might know somebody who knows, I would love to know the name of this man. I want to know his specific bequest, so that we can honour that. And in this way, I'm saying that that for me, this gift is sacrosanct, and that land can never, under any dignified watch of our people, be used for any other purpose than what this man intended. So I hope I have your support on all of that. And at the moment, there's a bit of a gap for me with the ID Verde, who are doing the maintenance and who have cut down climbers that we've put on the chain link fence. So I'm going to be looking for chain link fence experts. And this is one of the things that I hope will become easier if it's back under our domain, as it were. I don't know if there is an issue with those chain fences collapsing. To me, that would be a bit of a blessing. It's such an eyesore. It's such an eyesore. And I want our children to walk through the Garden of Eden, wherever they are, in this town, in this land, really, and to have rivers and lakes that they can swim in without thinking twice, that they can drink water from. So really, as part of that bigger dream, this is my small input. And the bees are beautiful. We've got some corn coming up, loads of gherkins, loads of flowers. It's been really lovely to do. And everyone, even people who expressed reservations, have been unconditionally supportive. So okay. I just thought I'd let you know what's happening, and that I'd really love to be able to negotiate chain link fences and other things with my local government, which is the only level of government with which I am prepared to engage, because no other level of government makes any sense to me. They don't live here, they don't know this land, they don't know the people. So I'd like everyone to have more of a local say on every level. But yeah, so thank you very much. I hope that was...
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you. Next up is Mark Wells, who wants to speak on agroecological land.
I do have a presentation, so maybe let's wait for the screen to come down. And I suppose I'll just introduce myself while that's happening. So I'm Mark Wells. I am a resident of Glastonbury. I'm an industrial engineer, which means I do system design, and I've worked in for community projects, for big, massive corporates, and for government. So my presentation today is hopefully the title will come up soon, but it's about incorporating agroecological land reform into your local development plans. I know you guys are developing a neighborhood development plan, and I'm hoping that you'll incorporate this, what I'm talking about, into that. So this will just be a very brief overview of the potential. So next slide, please. So what is agroecology? There's a lot of definitions about that. I'm not going to go into detail because I don't have time. Next slide, please. You will have this information at your disposal. But simply put, agroecological farming is people working with nature to provide food and fuel sovereignty. Next slide. So UK positioned agroecology in 2010. The UK government ratified the findings of the 2008 International Assessment of Agricultural Science and Technology Development report, which basically said what we need to do is transition towards small-scale agroecological farming because it's more productive, it's more resilient against climate change, it has all sorts of benefits for community, social well-being, all sorts of other things. And next slide. So the National Planning Policy Framework alignment with agroecological land reform. So your local development plans have to be done in accordance with the National Planning Policy Framework. And if you read that policy framework, there's nothing in there that says that you can't do land reform based on agroecological principles. And in fact, they encourage it for, and I've highlighted just some sections in there which pertain to that, and also can be seen to incorporate agroecological reform. So you complete alignment with your guidelines. Next slide. So why we need it is, so this is basically a graph from DEFRA showing the total income per hectare for farming. And you can see in Somerset on the right hand side, you're basically below the national average of £389 per hectare. You've got £381 per hectare, which doesn't seem like a lot. Next slide. So how does it compare against rudimentary peasant farming? Basically, back in 1086, when the Doomsday Book recorded what people were producing, what they disclosed, and some of them didn't disclose everything, obviously, because they were going to pay tax on that. They disclosed they were earning about 23 to 26 shillings per year, which is roughly £1,600 per hectare in modern day equivalent on a basket of goods, which means that the old peasant farmers were 4 times more productive than the present farmers in Somerset. And you can look out from the tour and you can just see all the sheep doing pretty much nothing. So we need to have a transformation if we want to achieve food security. Next slide, please. You can see this is a graph from the ISTEP report, and you can see conventional farming on the left-hand side, and you can see high productivity. In fact, it's actually quite embarrassing because the conventional farming is actually 4 times lower in production than the peasant farming of old, and you can see the peasant farming down at the bottom. So essentially, well, this is mapping the transition. This is what government signed up to, by the way, to agroecological systems. So we're supposed to be doing this. Next slide, please. What does it look like from a planning point of view? This is a typical 2,000 square meter, half an acre agroecological farm. So it's sort of maybe what you might class as a modern day peasant farm. But essentially you can see the gardens, the orchards, woodlands, and places for nature. Next slide, sorry. You may have heard of the Glastonbury 5FF project, which is a 5-mile radius. This is something done back in the early beginning of the year, and there was a study done to map out indicators for agroecology in farming. And you can see the red circle, which is the 5-mile radius. Next slide. What does that mean? You can see we've got, actually, it's a lot more than, my slide is actually incorrect, sorry. You've got a lot more hectareage in that, but basically 86% of the farmland in that of the land in that 5-mile radius is conventional farming, with only 0.2% is agroecological at the moment. What we would propose is at least 102 hectares of conventional agriculture land gets converted to agroecological small holdings. And what that will achieve is you'll be able to produce all of the fresh produce that you need in Glastonbury and Street to achieve the United Nations 400 grams per person per day of fresh produce, and that we produce locally. And you would have an income inward generation of 9.2 million per year from that fresh produce, and you'd have 511 new homes, which I think everyone's struggling to find new homes. This is where you'll find them. Next slide.
Can I just mention 3 minutes has passed,
Okay,
so
sorry.
for too long.
Basically, I just cut this. This is the last slide. What do people want? There was a People's Assembly, and basically the goals from the People's Assembly are written there, and all of them relate to going back to the land and going for small-scale farming. So the people want this. We don't see any reason why it can't be in the local development plans, and we encourage you to team up with other local councils to promote an extensive incorporation and maybe have networks of nature and various other things that link to this with communage and other land in agricultural use. Thanks very much.
Thank you. Can I just request, Mark, that you send a copy of your presentation to Connor, the town clerk, to circulate to us?
I just need to update
one
one
slide.
slide.
Okay, great.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you. Then we can read it and absorb it a bit more fully.
Yeah, sure.
So next up, we've got Angela Friend about the red brick building.
I tried to book a function at the Red Brick Building, but no one will go down there. It's such a shame that they have to go through such a mess. There's several caravans there, there's loads of traffic, broken down vehicles, and Lord knows what else down there. And is it ever going to be tidied up down there? Because it's a shame. It's once you get past that lot and into the building, it's fine. But you just got to get there. And one thing, I did have a family member, they booked online for the Premier Inn, and they pulled into Aldi. Was it safe to park there? And I said, well, I'm sure it is. I've never heard of any problems down there, but there again. It's just, I just wonder if it will ever get tidied up down there. The old Moorlands building, every time we passed it, my husband said, oh, that should have been knocked down years ago, he was working there. So, but I just wonder if there's anything can be done to tidy it up when you drive past it. So everywhere is a mess down there.
We have a response from Steve.
Quick reply, Ange. As you know, the town deal is dealing in that area of deprivation, and with the Baileys building, the red brick, the enabling project down Portishead Road, all that is designed to alleviate those problems. So, as you know, that's an ongoing problem which is not going to be solved overnight.
No.
We are doing our best, and it's going to, hopefully that will go some way towards tidying up.
It's such a shame.
We all know that, Ange. You're not telling us anything we don't know.
Once you get past it, and Porchester Drive, well, that was the old Glastonbury tip, and where the storage dumped all their rubbish.
Well, we're talking about different places, Anne. So I'll have a chat to you. We're talking about the wrong place.
Okay, then. Thank you very much. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Yes. Next up is Richard Jeffs, who is there to speak about stakeholder capitalism.
Hello everyone, thank you for the time. So my name is Richard Jeffs. My background is that I started my career working at ITV. I was a TV producer, and then I went across to BBC. I worked on BBC Panorama, Watchdog, etc. And then I moved across into a completely different sector. I became a tech entrepreneur, and I received startup capital. And last year I received investment from a VC company, and they want me to start doing something called ESG. I don't know whether anyone's heard of ESG on this table. No, okay. So me just being inquisitive, I checked out what ESG is and where it comes from. It comes from a new socio-economic system called stakeholder capitalism. Who's heard of stakeholder capitalism on this table? Okay. You might be surprised to know it's our new socio-economic system here and around the world. It's been enacted by our global elites through an organization called the World Economic Forum. The World Economic Forum, you all know pretty much most of the members, including Al King and Matt Hancock, pretty much all of our government. In fact, our government is a strategic partner of the World Economic Forum. So it's essentially an exclusive club for the world's elites. And the brainchild of stakeholder capitalism comes from a gentleman called Klaus Schwab. He started the World Economic Forum 50 years ago to enact stakeholder capitalism around the world. And he now declares with support with all of his stakeholders, that this is now our new socio-economic system. Why don't you know about this? Well, that's a different story I'd like to get onto at some point. But this took me on a journey where I started to make a documentary. And over the last 10 months, I've made a thorough documentary where I investigated stakeholder capitalism, where it's come from, and what it means. It's really hard to even talk about this because it amazes me. Whenever in history a nation has shifted to another socio-economic system undemocratically, it's ended in disaster. Millions of people dying. The fact that you guys don't know about this, I didn't know about this, majority of people don't know about this. There's one person that's come up with an idea for a socio-economic system. But if we go back to our history lessons, what other socio-economic systems are there that we've known about in the past? We know capitalism, formerly known as shareholder capitalism. It's a socio-economic system that's designed to put the interest of shareholders first, so that companies are designed to generate profit for your shareholders. We also have another socio-economic system that's generally used in the East, and I'm quoting Klaus Schwab on how he describes what stakeholder capitalism is. The second socio-economic system is state capitalism. State capitalism is a socio-economic system that puts the interest of the government first, and that's the system that they use in China. Stakeholder capitalism is a socio-economic system that puts the interest of stakeholders first. It puts restrictions on the way companies are run. No longer do we have the freedom to run our businesses the way we choose with traditional shareholder capitalism. We now have to work to the interest of the stakeholders. The stakeholders are the World Economic Forum's members. And I'll finish here. We have a new socio-economic system that's been enacted around the world, here in the UK. And whenever a new socio-economic system is enacted, it changes society. It will change your council. It will change the way it's run. It will change everything, the town. And over the past 10 months, I've done a deep dive into this. It changes everything, from banking to farming to everything. And I would like the opportunity to show this documentary to you exclusively before it goes out for your feedback. It's a very well researched documentary. I have showed it to the former head of ITV and Sky News, and I have support from politicians too, and who have seen it, who are also pretty concerned about the findings. So if I may, at some point within the next week or two, I'd like to show it to you guys privately and hear your feedback, because I've come across something that I'm a little bit concerned about. Before I put it out there to the world, I'd like some feedback from you guys if possible, and that'd be great. So possibly after I'll keep contact, and then maybe we can have a private viewing with you guys. But I really appreciate your time today, and I thank you for your interest in my work. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, Richard. And last, by no means least, is Claire, who I believe has a very short video to show us of Fisher's Hill. Community garden.
From here.
You're okay there.
Hello everybody, very short film, 1.5 minutes. It's just our annual celebration, our second birthday at Fisher's Hill. We've been there for 2 years and we've done amazing things, and I know that Terry tried to get there and didn't quite make it, so now he can see how it was, so enjoy. Could somebody get the lights to work? I think it should be all right. Oh, is it?
Yeah, that's okay.
Okay. We should have music.
Thank you very much, Claire. And congratulations on all your work for Fisher's Hill. I think I'm sure I speak on all of our behalf. And it is wonderful to see so many new community gardens emerging in Glastonbury. The more the merrier. So we can now proceed to the main part of the meeting. First thing is to light the Glastonbury candle, and I wonder if PC Popel would be willing to do that for us. Just before heading out the door, and then we'll stand for the silent minute. Looks like a brand new candle. Thank you very much, everyone. Thank you again, PC Popel.
Thank you. And if you're happy, we're going to make good aura.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
Bye, Mark. Cheers, Mark.
So I believe we have a couple of apologies.
Yes, Chair.
I have had apologies from Councillor Cottle owing to a personal commitment, apologies from Councillor Cook, again owing to a personal commitment, and both Councillors Roni Dougal and Don Francesco are expecting to be late but will hopefully join us later on.
And I have apologies from Councillor McDougall, who's not feeling so well tonight.
Councillor Osborne?
Councillor Hart will be here later. She's with police person Mark.
Okay. Thank you very much. Declarations of interest, as usual. Do we have any declarations of interest? Councillor Napper.
I presume I could be leadership, or is that presumption?
I think it's presumptuous.
Um,
Chair.
Councillor Luckabundy, yes, Street Parish Council, please. Thank you.
Michael?
I'm Vice Chair of the Town Deal Board.
Any other declarations of interest at this stage?
I'd like to declare that I'm chairperson of the Common Moor Drove Allotment Society, but I'm also, as another apology from Councillor Cousins, who's got work commitments.
So we can always add declarations of interest as needed as we go on. So the minutes of the last meeting, 8th of August this year.
Thank you, Chair. They were only circulated today. They are in the online folder that everyone has access to, and there are a number of printed copies around the table if anyone prefers to have sight of a printed copy.
And I'm afraid there's 8 pages of them. So page 26 to begin with. Any corrections or mistakes?
I don't know if this
Councillor Osborne.
is supposed to raise it, but I would just like to have it noted that I know these were sent out electronically, but it was agreed that there would be people to pick up. We've tried to pick them up and that there weren't any. I don't think they existed until today, and it is my understanding they should have been existent since at least last Friday.
Yes, the agenda legally has to be on the notice board with 3 clear days' notice. It purely was, I came back off of holiday at the beginning of September, and we've had various people off ill. It's just been the amount of work on that they weren't ready when I normally like them to be ready for yourselves to pick them up. So I can only apologise for that, and it won't become a habit. It's just the amount that's been going on at the moment, but I do apologise.
Okay. So page 26, anything else? Page 27. I think there's a mistake on item 84, where we are committing to become carbon neutral, if not carbon negative, by 2023. Seems a bit premature.
Yes. So, Chair, that would be a keystroke error. I do apologise. If you could strike out the 3 and put a number 5 on your copy, that will go in the minute file.
2025, yeah.
Yes.
Anything else on page 27? Page 28. Page 29, are we ready? Page 29. Page 30. Page 31. Nearly there. And lastly, page 32. Oh, okay, sure.
Strike through 2023. I don't know.
Great. Okay. That's all right. So may I accept these minutes as a true and fair record? I will suffice. Thank you very much. So item 4, an update on actions from the last meeting.
Thank you, Chair. So the actions arising from the last meeting, the volunteer network were informed of their successful grant application and they were delighted. The Town Council shared the details of the petition relating to pharmacy provision in the town as agreed. The arrangements with the repair cafe are being made for them to hire the small hall downstairs. An email was sent to Councillor Cottle. He's following up on various items, including community infrastructure levy and various highways matters. And as you will have seen this evening, the certificate was made and obviously presented to PC Popal. So they were the actions arising from the last meeting, Chair.
Thank you very much. Any questions for Connor? So, next thing, to note the Neighbourhood Beat team update and latest crime statistics, which we've received by email. Maybe Connor can put it up.
I can. I will find it, Chair. That was sent to me a couple of days ago by one of the local police, the Beat team. Let me just find, looking in the wrong folder, email from PC Moyes, which included, I think, a screenshot of the police's database as opposed to the one on the police.uk website, which we normally look at. So the update from the local Beat team was only 3 bullet points long. It was quite short. I'll come up in due course when the projector warms up. And if I plug my laptop in, that helps.
Any questions or comments?
And I will have to zoom back out in order to, there we go, get the entire screenshot, but it was circulated, so it might be that members will have to read it on your own screens, but that's a bit clearer than I was expecting it to. That's what was received, Chair.
My impression when I was looking at it was the numbers seemed to be down, but the graph didn't seem to be going down. I didn't look into it deeply enough to figure out why. In fact, the graph seemed to be going up slightly, if anything.
I can't remember, Chair, when the next Town Centre Crime Reduction Advisory Committee is off the top of my head. I think it's in the process of being organised because we're trying to make sure that the next date the police can actually attend and won't cancel on us last minute like they unfortunately had to last time.
Councillor Houghton?
I think it would be quite nice if the police actually turned up at both our council meetings and at the crime meeting that we hold, because we do need to talk to them. I've actually got the crime statistics here that I actually pulled off the Avon and Somerset Police statistic board today. There were 80 reported crimes in the High Street. Violence and sexual offences, there were 47. Antisocial behaviour, 20. Public order offences, 11. And other, 6. And you quite rightly saw that although the actual amount of crimes being committed is down, the graph actually is starting to show a slight increase again. So I think it might be very useful to have a member of the police here, certainly at our meetings, because otherwise it's no point in us talking when we've got no police to actually help us.
Any further comments? I wonder if we could ask Connor to send a special request to the police to turn up for the next council meeting, given that they haven't been at the Crime Prevention Committee.
They do get an invite to every meeting, Chair, but I will try my very best.
If we point out that they didn't come to their special committee, maybe they would come. Okay. Move on. So item 6, to consider writing a letter of support for a new Glastonbury video production company. And I'd quite like to invite Gabriel Avalon to introduce this to us.
Councillors, pleasure to see you all again. We're going to keep it short. We're going to show you a quick presentation of what we've been doing so far, and then we're going to tell you a bit about what we're doing and how you can help us. So, run VT, as they say on television.
We've been nursing these buildings for nearly 20 years to try and save them for the community. And now we've got funding in place and we're now working nearly to the point of getting planning permission to be able to get this project underway.
All 11 projects have to be completed and functional by the 31st of March 2026. That is not very far away.
We want this to make Glastonbury a better place. Honestly, that's what it's about. We love it. We're all doing this because we love the town. It's about getting people into the land, tune with the land, and getting to, really connect with nature and themselves.
We're really excited to be involved in the town a little bit. So we've secured £2 million to upgrade the building of Tour Leisure to create what we all want Tour Leisure to be, which is a sports and leisure hub. The town deal is £23,600,000, and if you give to a town country.
This project is about developing a site for people in Glastonbury where they can live safely and with the accommodation that they need.
If Glastonbury people were so good as extras to be able to make things like Bossy does, they should be able to make the modern things of the 21st century. And why are we importing all this from China when we could actually make it in Glastonbury?
Thank you for watching that. So why are we here? Kevin and I are putting together a small production company called Made in Glastonbury Productions, and the key aim of that is to record what's happening on the town deal as it's going on. It's going to leave a huge legacy on the town. This amount of money, the amount of building work that's going to go on, the capital investment that's going to go on, it's going to make a huge investment in the town, and it's going to change the town forever. And I want to be able to record that. So 10 years from now, people can look back and say, that's what we did. But another thing is engagement. I know I keep banging on about engagement, but without engagement, all we're going to get is some shiny new buildings. I walked up the high street today and I bumped into 15 people that I knew. Now, is that an indication I'm popular or not? I don't know, but I bumped into 15 people today and I asked them all what they thought of the town plan. 11 of them didn't know what the town plan was. Didn't have a clue. 3 of them wouldn't know if they were going to fill the bloody potholes with the money. People don't know about the town deal at the moment, and we want to bring it to them. We want to engage with them. We want to work with all the different bodies. And the reason we're here is we're asking you for a letter of support, because to do this, we are going to need to raise funding. And to do that, we're going to have to approach funding bodies. Now, we've already got a letter. Have you got those to show there, Connor? Thank you. We have a letter from James Heapy, and we have a letter from Lynn Sedgmore. Who've both very kindly given us their full support in what we're aiming to do with this, and you can see them there on the screen. So we're asking something for you at the moment. We're not asking for money at the moment. It's not a funding issue. We literally need the support so that we can go out and get the funding. And so I leave it with you to have a think and let me know what you think. And Kevin's here to answer any questions as well. He's the intelligent one, the brains of the operation. Have one.
You're the beauty, are you?
Eh?
Or the eye candy, he's the brains.
On the eye candy, yeah, exactly. Have any questions?
Well, I'm not a question, but I think we should certainly, I don't know if we need to vote on that, but I think we should certainly write a letter of support. You guys, I mean.
Councillor Smythe?
Thank you. I'd like to provisionally support what you're doing, obviously. I'd also like to know more about it and how it fits in with the other, as we use the term loosely, stakeholders, so that there's no overlapping. I'd like to also hear other councillors' views who aren't here tonight. So if we could defer it to, say, the next Property and Assets meeting, I'd be very happy to have more information from you both, and I'm sure we'll all be able to support it. We just need to know how it all fits in exactly to other stakeholders and their interests too.
When you say stakeholders, what do you mean?
Other persons in the town deal, and also how other councillors who aren't here tonight.
That's fair enough. Yeah.
Thank you. I'd just like to say a few words from the sort of town deal board perspective. So Lynn Sedgmore and I, we've had several meetings with Kevin and Gabriel, talked various things. They've got a very good, what was it, 15, 20-minute video on there where you went around the project on YouTube. That's well worth looking at, and it actually gives you like a nice insight into all of the 11 projects. One of the important things for the town deal, you're probably aware that central government never built in any money for inflation. So when the money was issued, it was 0 interest rates. So now we're on whatever, we're on 5, 6, whatever %. And so there's no availability of extra money for that. So one of the things these two guys are keen on doing is trying to raise awareness And the letters essentially are for them to go to grant awarding bodies and say, this is what we're doing. We've got the support of the local authorities, and can you please give us some money? Somerset Council, we did talk, Lynn and I talked to the media person from there, and he said he's totally up for it. He's busy at the moment. When they've got funding, to come back. So Somerset Council is happy with it as well. So yeah, that's pretty much where we're at. So most of the projects have got some sort of funding shortage, you know, so like here, are we going to have the money for the atrium, for example? And so raising awareness in town, I think that will sort of make everything easier.
Steve?
Thank you very much, Chair. I can see what Councillor Smythe is saying about finding out more. I think we all need to find out more, but I don't think there's any harm in us giving our support in principle to what these guys want to do. I mean, it's not costing us anything. And I think, you know, the fact, you know, if I don't make a meeting, I don't expect to be filled in that what I missed at a later date. I think if you can't make a meeting, that's hard luck, I'm afraid. So I think the councillors that are here tonight should make a decision on what we do with these guys personally. And I would like to propose that we write a letter of support with, updates.
We will be looking to work.
Sorry. No, with regular updates, Steve, of course, yeah.
We'd be looking to work with the council and the board as well. I mean, it's all one big thing. We're all working together in this for the good of the town. That's the most important thing, I say.
So, Councillor Napper?
I'd like to second Councillor Henderson's.
Okay. So, Councillor Smythe?
I'm just aware also that, you know, this is a very sensitive subject, and the profile is going to be massive. And there may be other video companies who would like to be involved also. So I think we just have to tread a little bit carefully here and not make it an exclusive letter of support.
Well, it doesn't stop anybody else doing it.
No effect on anybody else at all. In fact, there's nobody out there at the moment at all showing any interest in it whatsoever.
So we do have a proposal and a seconder. Are we ready to move to vote? So all those in favour? Is all those against? All those abstaining? So 2 abstentions, but it's passed. So Connor, would you draft a letter of support?
Yes, I can do, Chair.
Thank you. Okay. Oh, Councillor Nash.
Councillor, thank you. I am concerned a little bit that we don't get too many people riding on the back of this, which could happen quite easily. So therefore, I think we have to limit what support we do give. I mean, we've just given the support to your project, and I think that we've got to be very careful we don't support multitudes of others. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Kevin and JP. Yeah, thank you for coming. So, the schedule of payments is in very small print, but we have it in front of us. I hope your eyes are good. Is it coming on the screen?
If you want to.
Oh, yes, please, yeah.
I wasn't going to. It's circulated in advance, but I can. You have to give the projector a second to cool down and warm back up.
Sure.
If you want it straight back on.
Sorry, yeah, I should have said. There's also a few notes to this from Jane.
That's the budget monitoring.
Yeah, that's the next one.
Yes,
yeah.
sure. Yeah.
I have one comment, please.
So, Councillor White?
Thank you. Line 2714, the Cumbria Clock Company. I hope that the town clerk is now performing on full speed following his annual service. If there was a chance that should be clock, then I wondered why we...
Oh, yeah. Hadn't noticed that, Councillor White. Annual servicing of town clerk at St John's Church. Well, I'll be honest with you, the amount of work going on, I could certainly do with being wound up and be able to work a bit quicker and more hours. That is meant to say clock, Councillor.
Yes, thank you. So I did just wonder, if it was supposed to say clock, why is this council paying for the church's clock when we have a perfectly good clock upstairs here?
It's not actually on St John's Church.
Okay. The one by the Freemasons.
I believe, yes, it's the clock across the road. It's in that area of the high street, so I believe that's probably why that is just put there. It's not the church's clock, it's the town clock up by the church, if that makes sense.
Thank you.
Well spotted. So if Connor's wound up, we know why. Any other questions or comments?
If I may, Chair, there was one that was picked up by a member of the team and I was asked to explain it just in case it generated any questions. This line here, it's not very clear what it's for. So it says, you'll notice the very first item is reimbursement for stationery, and then the finance officer has put reimbursement for stationery, etc. here. And it was raised that that's quite a lot of money for stationery. What that actually was items that we had to purchase for the information centre, such as 3 new office chairs and a few other bits and pieces like that, the new safe, which Jackie had to purchase, and then we've had to reimburse her. So it was just raised with me that that potentially is not the clearest explanation of that amount of money, given that there's 2 payments that appear to be for stationery on this list, but I'll feed that back to the finance officer. But I just wanted to explain that for clarity, because it was raised to me that it's not very clear.
Under 2755, it's last year's Christmas tree we are paying for.
Yes.
Okay.
So they're a bit lax on their invoicing, but
obviously. Councillor Napper.
Thank you. Number 2757, I thought that there was a budget for that, and I didn't think it was that amount.
There is a budget for Mayor Sunday, Councillor Napper. It's split in 2. There's one budget line for the road closure, which wasn't used this year because we didn't close any roads. And there is another budget line which is for the civic reception part of it. And the catering normally is about that much, if not more.
Mike?
I just note that if there were instructions from the clerk, very clear instructions that any questions to be raised on the schedule of payments or budget monitoring report should be put before it in writing to save time and to save any kind of off the cuff.
You're not knowing what the answer is, yeah.
So thank you for answering those off the cuff, and in future maybe we can adhere to your request.
Well, that's quite all right, but I will acknowledge that there were some councillors who didn't actually receive those printed copies until today. So I'm always happy to answer where I can, but I only put that note in because I don't administer the finances on a day-to-day basis, so I don't necessarily know what every payment's for or every budget line. But I will certainly, if I get a query in advance, seek that answer. But where I can answer, I will. Where I can't, I'll have to take it away and get the finance officer to liaise with that councillor directly. But thank you, Councillor Smith.
Are we ready to move on? So, number 8, to receive the budget monitoring report.
Oh, sorry, Chair. Could I ask you to sign, if everyone is happy with you signing it, sign this copy for minutes, please.
Sure. Okay. So the budget monitoring report, and there's some notes to go with it.
Going back to 2788, is it possible to have sight of the plan for the energy efficiency? It's rather an awful lot of money, £2.5 grand, just over. I wonder what is in the report.
Oh yes, that's the retrofit plan for the town hall efficiency. Is it possible for us to see that?
Yeah, so it will, Melissa has received it. It has either already been or will be going to property and assets, but there was a delay in receiving it, but that was the invoice to have the work done that was agreed. I cannot remember if it was agreed by the Resilience Committee or if it was agreed by property and assets. I think it was agreed by the Resilience Committee.
So I don't think we've seen it yet, as far as I remember.
Not yet. We haven't had it very long, Chair, but it will be shared with the relevant committee, and certainly it can be. I'll ask Melissa to circulate it to everyone.
Yeah.
I'm not on that committee, so is it possible I can have the sight of the report?
Yes.
Thank you.
Yes, I'll ask Melissa to circulate it, and she'll print a copy off for you, Councillor Napper, and you can come and pick it up if you'd like, but we'll also email it to you so you can read it whichever way you prefer.
Yeah, email will be fine.
Cool. Okay, so the budget monitoring report. Jane's notes are on the front, and then there's the detailed report following. I could mention myself and Councillor Manning are still in discussion with Jane about reformatting the report. Jane is looking into the technicalities.
Sorry, Chair.
Is here.
Ah, excellent.
That's the payments and that's the minutes.
Thank you so much.
And I think at this point I hand over the chairmanship to our mayor.
LB for holding the court. Thank you, everyone. I see you're whizzing through.
We're just doing the budget monitoring report.
Great. Have we actually gone through? Are we still on it?
Just started it, Your Worship.
Thank you very much. Good evening, everyone. Yes, Councillor.
Could I just try and understand, like, the note 2 about bank interest? It says over budget due to an increase in interest rates. So surely we get more interest.
Yes. So it's income. So over budget on income is more income.
Okay.
So we budgeted only £300 based on 0.5% interest, and also we only ever used to get half of our precept in one go.
Yeah.
We only ever had a smaller amount of money in our bank accounts. This year, with the new unitary, we've had all of our precept income in one go. So we've had more money in our bank accounts for a longer period of time. And the interest rates from when this was budgeted until now have probably gone up by about 10 times. They're probably about 5% now. We probably budgeted 0.5. So that's an additional £2,000 so far, and we're not even the whole way through the year. So we've done quite well on our bank interest. The process of changing bank accounts to bank more ethically is in process. And I know the finance officer is liaising with various councillors about being signatories, setting up bank accounts, but there are fewer and fewer banks that will take local authority money, which is strange because it's very secure money. And the process of setting up a bank account is unfortunately quite arduous, but it is in process to happen this financial year. And I know the finance officer is working on it, but that's still a good thing to be over budget on. I'd much rather be over budget on an interest line, income line, than an expenditure line.
Thank you.
Councillor, any other points or questions? Where are we? Page 2. Going on to page 3.
Can I ask please, Connor, what is the red figure? So you've got it, annual insurance on the final or last column, and also down at the bottom, the mayor event and Beltane event, red. Does that mean overspend?
Yes, so that was Beltane cost around £2,000. It was the council events budget line. And I don't think that was your mayor's event, Councillor Don Francesco. I believe that was Councillor Cousins' mayor's event in April, right at the very end of his mayoral year. And I think that's why it presents the slight £280 overspend by the time all the costs were received. It was £2,000 budgeted for council events, and basically that was all spent on Beltane. So it's something to bear in mind when we set our budget for next year.
Thank you, yes, and very worth it was. Fabulous. Any on page 3? Questions? No, that's the end. Fabulous, unless there's any more comments. Fantastic. Great. So then we are now on to consider recommendations from the A361 committee, which is to request a permanent speed camera on Coursing Batch. I don't remember there being for a permanent one, but somebody else, who's feeding back from that, please? Thank you, Michael.
Thank you, Your Worship. I believe that this is something that County Council could pay for, and or there's another route to go down, which I think a grant of about £5,000 available from the police, and it costs slightly more than that, so we would have to make up the difference if we decided we wanted to pay for it. But I think that the safest route, if you like, is to make a request to the County Council initially and see what comes back from them. I agree.
Yeah,
I think in principle it's a very good idea. So there's many other issues with regards to the A361 that need to be addressed.
Fabulous. And just another bit of information, the bus group, Lindsay's not here, is she? So part of the bus group, they are also putting in a funding bid for one of those signs that tells you how fast you're going. So it's not connected to anything and it doesn't, reel home. So they are doing that one. They were going to go for a speed camera, but if we have it, we then have to look after the charges and we have to look up, chase the drivers, if you like, rather than it being connected to a police group. So, yes, Councillor Henderson.
So are we talking like a speed camera like we used to be around in the big yellow boxes, that they've kind of disconnected them all nowadays? I thought they don't use anymore, work anymore, do they? And I'm sure that if that's the case, that's a police matter, surely. Yeah. We don't have to chase.
No, but if we've got it, then yeah.
So did you just say the council have to change?
No, if it's we buy one ourselves, then there was a thing where we would own it, right. So we would have to chase. Yeah, so it would be. Yeah, that would be. Awful.
I mean, I think it's a great idea, and we need to reduce the speed on that hill, no doubt about it. But I just thought those sort of speed cameras were kind of just not being used anymore. But I stand to be corrected. Please out there.
Lukabandu, Zoe, and then Serena.
I thought what was being talked about was one of those things that tell you the speed you're going.
Well, that was what
green or red, depending.
Sure. Well, sorry, Chair. I think that's what the mayor meant, but I thought Mike was talking about something different.
So, can you clarify this?
Yeah. Right. So.
Yes.
I've been liaising with the local Speed Watch group.
That's the one. Thank you.
They are applying for a speed indicator device, which are those LED boards that flash up and tell you how quick you're going, whether it wants you to slow down or it gives you a green smiley face, something if you're going under the speed limit. So that's one thing that's sort of sat over here. We presently have a speed indicator device that we move around 3 different locations in the town. The group are applying for money from the police for another one. That group would gift it to the town council, and we, like the one we presently do, either would put it up and leave it, or put it up and move it around depending on what was decided. I believe I wasn't at the A361 committee meeting because how dare I was on holiday. Still haven't caught up from all the work that's happened, but I believe the way it was worded, recommendation to full council to request installation of a permanent speed camera to be installed at Coursing Batch. Councillor Ronnie Dougal might want to speak more to it. Councillor Cousins isn't here, but I believe that was one of those permanent speed cameras that if you're speeding, it flashes, sends your details off to the police, and you actually get a fine. You don't get a fine from a speed indicator device,
No.
but you get a fine and potentially points, maybe a ban if you're being a complete idiot, from a speed camera.
Yeah.
We aren't legally allowed to process or issue any fines ourselves. That, I think, speed cameras, they are dealt with by the police, but it's in conjunction with the highway authority that they're put there, etc. There are new cameras being put up. They're not quite as big as the old ones. They're much smaller, but there's one, granted not in Somerset, but nearer where I live. There's a new one at the bottom of a hill near, it's not Farrington Gurney, Farnborough. So they are putting up, and there's also one if you're driving from Salford to Bath, again at the bottom of a hill that people drive very quickly down. So there are new, in inverted commas, proper speed cameras being put up. And I believe the request from the A361 committee was to write to highways and request that a permanent speed camera that issues fines is put on coursing badge.
Perfect, thank you. Can we have Serena, Michael, and then we can...
So this was proposed, as it's been said by John Cousins and myself. The idea being that a permanent speed camera where people are fined actually has greater weight than almost anything else. It might be a long process going via the police and highways, but in the end it might actually solve the coursing badge problem, because it is a problem. We are frequently these days getting emails from people who live in coursing badge complaining about the danger that is happening for anybody on the pavement and the near misses with lorries, and you know it's somebody is going to get killed if we don't do something, and it's been a problem many years in the making. So that was why the A361 committee proposed that we go the whole hog, we get a speed camera where people will be fined, and we will have to do the negotiations with highways and the police in order to get it. Whilst I'm up here, not to muddy the waters, but just for clarification, that the speed alert people that Connor mentioned, who are wanting to do the thing that tells you how fast you're going, they put in for a grant, and they are hoping to get another one, which they will give to us. The grant is for 5,000. The cost of the device is 5,400. So if you look at your papers where it comes to the Climate and Ecological Emergency Advisory Committee, you will see that one of our recommendations, because they came to the Climate Emergency Group and asked if I could ask this council to make that £400 difference, seeing as we're going to get it in the long run anyway. But let's leave that one for now. Let's park it. I just thought clarification on what Connor was saying. Let's now just talk about the speed camera, because my feeling is that if you're going to do a job, you've got to do it properly. We want to stop the danger in coursing badge. The only way to stop the danger in coursing badge is to get people to slow down. It's the only way. And the only way I know of, having driven with my father where he goes, there's a speed camera coming up, slow down now, is that people do slow down when they know there's a speed camera. They don't want to fine, nor do they want points, nor do they want to have to go to these things where you're taught how to drive because you've been driving too fast. You know, they do take notice of them. So that's why we propose this.
Thank you very much, Councillor Beadle. Yes, thank you.
Was that a proposal? Was that a proposal?
It certainly is a proposal.
Yeah, it's a proposed is that we write to highways and the police to request the same. And I'm very happy to second that.
Great, second it. Thank you.
Yeah.
Anyone against it?
Those in favour?
Okay, who's all those in favour? Fabulous. All those against? Any abstentions? Thank you. Carried. So moving on to number 10, to note the resolutions of delegated committees.
Thank you, Worship. It is in the online folder for those councillors who have their devices, and there's a number of printed copies around the table for those that don't. This, like the minutes again, was circulated quite late, so I apologise. But these, other than the recommendation from the A361 committee, are only for noting.
So going through Resilience Committee, no recommendations. Staffing Committee. Does anybody else want to speak to this? So Councillor Cousins proposed that time it off in lieu of payment toil policy be adopted. This was seconded by myself and resolved unanimously.
That's your copy.
Oh, thank you. Do you want that back? Secondly, has everyone got this? Do I need to read it?
We've got it.
You've got
We've
it.
all
Okay.
got it.
All right, thank you. So just noting.
Yeah, just note.
Okay, thank you. So on to the Planning Committee. Page 2. Yeah, we've done the 361. Property and assets onto page 3. What do you want to go back to?
The recommendation from the Climate and Ecological Emergency Group.
That's the next one. That's advisories.
Okay.
Yeah,
Oh,
we
sorry,
already
beg your
did
pardon.
that
I
one.
do beg your pardon.
No problems. Good to be eager. Yes. Yeah, 3. Okay, we all good with that? No receipt. Yes, Councillor.
May I ask a question regarding the property and assets? Whether point 3 about the registering the national allotment sites becomes statutory allotments, registering with the National Allotment Society. Has anything been done?
So, no, I haven't done that yet, Councillor Ronnie Dougal. You were going to share with me the person at the National Allotment Society I needed to contact. Would you be able to send me that contact detail and I can liaise with them? Brilliant, thank you.
Yes, Councillor.
Thank you, Chair. Also to do with property and assets, I just wondered where the £5,425, which budget or which pot that is coming from.
So that would be once the project in the car park is complete, as in the way we were going to finance that was to take out a public works loan. That would be part of the money that would be brought back in through the loan. We have enough money in general reserve to cover that until the point when we do the works and then get it back in a loan, but it will be part of the entire project cost when it's complete. But it's just come out of general reserve at the moment, but at the point when the works are undertaken and we have the loan to complete it, it will sort of be backfilled, if that makes sense.
Thank you.
Brilliant, thank you. Anything else, please, on the advisory committees? Fabulous. Oh, yeah.
One brief one. So again, on that property and assets one, about the bin storage. I did talk to Ali over at Markerberry. Did you see that email I sent you?
I have many unread emails at the moment, Councillor White. I haven't seen it yet, but that was something I was going to ask you about later this evening, so thank you very much.
Thank you, Councillor White. Yes.
Councillor Cousins proposed that all Glastonbury Town Council allotment sites be registered with the National Allotment Society. does that mean that it could never be used for anything else but allotments? No, that it can be used in other ways, dignifiably.
Okay, so may I answer?
Please.
So I've been dealing with the National Allotment Society. Lower side allotments are registered with them, which means that they're what are called statutory allotments. So you remember they got designated as potential housing, but should we decide to actually go for that, that then has to go to the Secretary of State or whichever government body it is before that can be ratified and accepted. If the allotments are not registered, then they have no level of any government whatever. But by registering them as statutory allotments gives them one other level of protection, let's call it that way, or officialdom, let's call it, makes them that bit more official when they're registered with the National Allotment Society.
The only thing, as I see it, that if they are, if we do decree that they should be used for residential or whatever, then it's going to be another process which is going to take time. But I believe that if we decide to do that, we can, we should be duty bound to find other premises for that allotment. So I'm not too sure why we need to do that.
So that you're precisely correct there. So should we decide to put housing on lower side, we would have to find another allotment site. That would be one of the requirements. If they're not registered with the Allotment Society, then basically they're free for anybody to do what they will with. And I know that people at the common law allotment, you know, they would not like a property developer to come along and say, hey, I'm going to build on these. Yes, so it just gives another level for the allotment holders to know that their 50 years of hard work into making the soil really beautiful and growing their crops is not going to be dug up. So there's arguments both for and against. One is making it slightly more difficult to go through all the official things to get the housing permission, and the other is the protection for the people who've broken their backs digging the ground to grow their crops. So it's which side does one want to look after, so to speak. And we proposed it because we're wanting to look after the allotment holders and the allotment sites. And part of this is for Glastonbury to become resilient with regard to food. So we're aware there's lots of things. There's floods and earthquakes and droughts and fires and all sorts of stuff going on around. And we've been working over the past few years to try to make sure that in this 5-mile area around Glastonbury, we are creating a resilient food culture, that we will make sure that the residents of Glastonbury, they might find that there's all sorts of other problems like houses being flooded because of rising sea levels or whatever, but that their food security is there. And so part of protecting the allotments is part of that process.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you, Serena. Any more, please? Any questions on the last? Are we ready to move on? Thank you, councillors. Can we please move on to receive updates from advisory committees and consider recommendations for decision, please? So, got one page. Neighbourhood plan and the arts, culture and events. There are no recommendations. Ah, yes, we've deferred that one.
That's deferred, yeah.
Yeah, that's wonderful. All right. This.
So do you want me to start talking about the climate change?
Yes, go for it. Thank you very much.
Okay, so I'll go with number one, which is the proposal. Do you remember we talked about the litter picking being once every quarter? That was Steve's suggestion. And that we started with the Glastonbury Blue litter pick that was in July. And so 3 months on is going to be just before all the Samhain celebrations, the zombie walks and all the rest of it. So there was a proposal to do the litter pick just prior to that. And that is, I think it says that, Sunday, October the 29th. And what the committee asked for is that this gets properly advertised, because I seem to remember the Glastonbury and Blue one had 3 people turn up. Yep. One of the councillors, one of the officers, and a member of the public. We would like to get more people involved in litter picking and cleaning up the town and everything afterwards. So if we could maybe have it out on the Facebook page, on the website, maybe we could get it more widely advertised on social media, so that all people know about it.
Thank you.
First recommendation. Anybody want to ask?
We've got a question.
Yeah, as much as I thoroughly approve of the idea of a community litter pick, many members of this community and others throughout the country consider Sunday to be a day of rest, and it could be work against us.
That's fine. That's your choice. Thank you very much, Councillor.
Thank you. Well, I think it's a really laudable proposal, and I appreciate that we want to keep the town clear of litter, and it's a shame that there is so much litter around. If you do the street road, there's KFCs and McDonald's and all sorts along there. And, you know, we used to do a quarterly litter pick, and it's sad to say that we very rarely got more than about 10 at most. You know, initially you might get a few more than that, but it was, you know, with the greatest will in the world, you're not going to get many people. I mean, that doesn't say we shouldn't try, but I'm just saying it's very difficult, as Mike said, on a Sunday morning, to get people out for 3 hours or whatever it is. Picking up litter is very, very difficult. But by all means, let's go for it.
Let's go for
Yeah.
it. And there's somebody who's approached the SEAT group who's keen on doing it. So if we can get her keenness to get people involved. And also, if you remember Laura Sorensen, she ran a litter picking once a month for a year, and she's got a team of people. So hopefully if we can, because the Glastonbury and Bloom one was a bit too soon, a bit too sudden from us deciding to do it and it happening. So now we've got time. So let's see what we can do.
Thank you, Councillor. 10 sounds low. So we've got Councillor Mutt, and then Welcome, thank you, and then we've got Councillor Zeri.
I think it's very laudable when people volunteer to go and pick up litter. I've done it once myself briefly, and I do it when I'm walking the dog quite often, can or something like that. But I always resent having to do it, because I think what we should be doing is getting the people who are dropping the litter to pick the litter up.
Right.
And I wonder where is the best direction to drive attention to, or one of the best initiatives which might be realistic. And if you look over where KFC is, for example, you look at a lot of the litter, it's KFC, it's McDonald's, it's the same people all the time. There's got to be a connection between the people that patronise those takeaways and the fact that they throw litter around. So without wishing to make a broad social comment on, you know, the morality of people that eat takeaways and walk down the street eating them, though the connection's absolutely unavoidable. I think, should we approach those takeaways for a start? Because if you walk up, there's a little walk-through up onto the relief road that comes around the end of Benedict Street. Masses of litter, it's a disgraceful mess. Should we approach KFC and McDonald's and say, can you use your own staff to go up? And I don't know if they've got notices up inside saying, don't do this. We have to go and clear it up if you don't. But I think there may be some value in really making it clear to people how appalling the town thinks this. If only to give encouragement to other people in the town who might never drop litter in their lives, but think, what's the council doing about this? And I think it's important to be seen to be taking the issue seriously. I mean, much as a youth, I feared for the day when there'd be cameras everywhere when I read 1984. I don't know who else to capture people. I don't know any other economic means. You can't have people watching the roads all the time with binoculars. It's not economically viable. But if you could capture a certain number of people, and if the courts, I mean, this requires obviously joined up thinking and approaching the courts, then will you make orders that these people who are caught littering will go and pick up litter? You'd certainly do it in Singapore. Singapore must be the most spotless city I think I've ever visited in my life. And when I lived in London, I used to put up notices all around the streets in my neighbourhood there. And I used to approach the MP about it. Could never get any enthusiasm. They were just always busy with murders and other things like that. You know?
Thank you, Councillor Much.
Am I going on too long?
Yes. But thank you, that was really inspiring. Thank you so much, and I would very much, take the bags back to, take the bags back to the, to Burger King and to wherever else they've come from. Thank you. I think we've just been joined by Councillor Hart. Thank you.
To say you could try and see if you could get some schools on board and tell them to get the kids to do a sponsored litter pick. Then you could pick up rubbish and make some money for a good cause. But,
Thank you very much. That was a thought that was in my head, was to get the schools on board. A sponsored litter pick is a really good idea.
Thank you. And I know the Red Brick are raising funds at the moment, suggested a sponsored litter pick, so I'll bring that up with them as well.
Lovely.
Did you have your hand up? I was just going to suggest that perhaps we could advertise the litter pick on the Facebook page and on the Town Council website, just to sort of see if we can get a few more people involved. And then just in response to Councillor Much, I was wondering whether the takeaways along that part may be able to contribute or sponsor a bin or something like that. Have some advertising as well as
Bins.
bins, yeah.
Yeah.
No, that's good. Oh, recycling bins is actually cardboard. Thank you. So is that that recommendation to do the litter pick? So are we? Yeah. Are we going for that one? Do you want to do a vote?
Sure.
Yes.
Just one sec. I mean,
yes. Sorry.
I don't want to be a wet blanket and but we wrote to all those takeaways before, and their attitude was, once that cardboard box or whatever has left our premises, we're not responsible. And we showed them the stuff we picked up. This is all your rubbish. Educate your customers. Put signs up. Didn't want to blink in now. But I agree, we should target them again. But, they are so irresponsible about what happens with their product after it's left their premises. It's unreal.
Thank you. I mean, maybe these things before they were built and whilst they were being agreed, to have actually had something in place. Yes,
just a brief one. So when I was younger, they used to have things like, don't be a litter lout. Don't throw your rubbish on the pavement. Put it in the bin. So community education.
Yes, the same with Abbey Park. It's wonderful having the basketball court there, but the litter has gone up. I think we can have another discussion about this and put it on an agenda, is actually because litter is getting really bad. ID Verdi, whatever they're going through right now, some of the bins are left to overflow. So I think litter, maybe let's put that on the agenda for another meeting. Is that all right?
Yeah.
How do you feel about this litter pick? I am all for it.
Yep.
I'm raring to go, as always, and I think it's just a great thing to actually shout about, and people see you out there with your vests, with your prongs, and shout about it.
Do you need a proposal?
I think we do.
I propose that we do a litter pick on Sunday, October the 29th, 10:30 to 12, and that we see if we can get the schools involved as a sponsor, and we advertise it on social media and the website.
Fabulous. Seconder?
I'll second it.
Lovely. LB, I will suffice.
Aye.
Okay, so now to the second one. It was quite a meeting, wasn't it? So this is the speed indicator sign from Speed Watch that has already been mentioned. So Susanna Clements has put in for the grant for £5,000 from the police to fund a speed indicator sign. She will then give it to the council for us to put up. She's suggesting coursing batch. Maybe it could do there before the speed camera gets installed, which will be a few years away, I expect, knowing Somerset highways. And she's asked, could we, as a town council, provide the £400 difference between the grant and the cost of the sign? That is what we are asking for.
Thank you, Councillor. Which budget?
I have absolutely no idea, Your Worship. Off
SEAC were going to give it, weren't they?
Off the top of my head, I haven't looked into it, Your Worship.
We're to provide the 400 then.
Yeah. The 5,000 was a grant.
But yes, 5,000 a grant, but the 4,000 comes
He's
from
wanting
us?
400 to come
From the council,
No, from SEAC.
from SEAC.
They were proposed.
Have enough money,
Yeah, I was going to say SEAC
unfortunately.
don't have 400.
I thought you, sorry, Chair, I thought you said that you were proposing that you were going to give £400 to the E361.
They're going to give
Asking is that the town council provide 400.
See,
That's what she's asking for, because the SEAC budget is at 700 and something.
Oh, right.
We want to use it for the next item, which I'm about to talk about.
Ha, you stacked them. So yes, so this is a grant for 5,000. That's the most they can actually get. The actual apparatus costs 5,400. So yes, I think that was Mike and then Bandy.
Yeah. Would it be best to discuss the next item first?
Oh. I don't know, would it?
Bearing in mind what Councillor Henderson said.
Okay, is that what?
My point was maybe we could ask Connor to look into the feasibility, ask whether or not there was a budget line that could be used and report back.
Just off the top of my head, the grants budget line has about, I think, over £2,000 left in it. Finance and General Purposes normally awards grants, but £400 could potentially come from the grants budget. Let me see, where is it? It's normally got a brackets 4,000 at the end of it. I don't. It's not. It's probably that's financial assistance. Where's that? Sorry if anyone's looking at the screen. I'm making you feel sick. I'm trying to find it.
That's fine. I mean, while you're doing it, I personally see it's a no-brainer. We're getting that amount of equipment. It can come out of just a normal grant as normal groups would come in, and it's for a thing.
Oh, it's that budget line. It's slightly different on the budget monitoring report than it is on my report. It is other grants. I think slightly more than that was spent by Finance and General Purposes. It won't reflect on here because I don't think all of it has been claimed. But there's certainly £400 in that budget line.
Perfect.
If not, there will be another budget line.
Thank you, Connor. Yes, Councillor Hamper.
Yeah, if it gets supported, but I don't see anywhere whereby it says supported by Glastonbury Town Council. And I think that should be emblazoned on there.
You're talking about the leaflet. We're not there yet.
No.
We're talking about the speed indicator camera.
Oh, right.
But we haven't quite got to the leaflet.
Sorry,
One second. We'll get to that.
Thank you, Councillor Napper. Yes, Councillor, and then let's go to vote.
I think it's very important.
Leaflet yet. We'll get there.
I think it's very important where this £400, I know £400 seems relatively insignificant compared to our overall income, but I think it's very important where it comes from, especially if it's going to come from the grants funding, which is there to support local charities and local groups. And I would see it more appropriate, perhaps, if it came from the Resilience Committee, possibly, or somewhere else. But to take £400 from the grant that's available for public charities, I think that's robbing Peter to pay Paul, really, and not necessary.
Thank you. Although I will say it's the bus group, which is actually a group to themselves.
No, it's the Speedwatch group.
It's the Speedwatch
It's
group, sorry.
Speedwatch, not the
Keep
bus
saying
group,
that.
it's
Thank you.
Speedwatch.
It's the Speedwatch group, which is a
Charity.
so they are actually probably eligible.
One quick one. Would there be any money in Somerset Council for highways?
Depends how long you've got and how quickly you want it.
But just in principle. So one would have thought there ought to be road signs coming from, say, the Millfield school end. Pedestrians in the road and stuff like that, you know.
I could not answer that one. Yes, Councillor.
I was just wondering whether it would, the sign would then belong to the council, and then perhaps property and assets might be a better budget line for it to come from.
Ah.
Property and assets as a committee doesn't have a budget line. It spends other budget lines that are in the budget, unfortunately.
Okay.
Essentially, if members are minded to spend the £400 to top up the grant to then receive an asset, it will come from somewhere, even if it doesn't come from a budget line, it just comes from town council reserves, because I'm pretty sure there'll be quite a few budget lines that are underspend this year because there are things we haven't completed. So I wouldn't get too hung up about exactly where it comes from, if you're minded to accept.
Okay, Councillor Henderson.
That's okay.
No? Okay, so,
Thanks.
All I was going to say was that this is the second one of these. We've already got one already. So surely the budget that it comes from should be the same budget as the first one.
From highways.
The existing one was bought a number of years ago. It doesn't have a budget line for maintenance, for example, or getting moved around, because it's just one of the things that the guys do. So actually, I think at a time when it was bought, it would have come from somewhere else, but it doesn't have an ongoing budget line. It's just something that's done operationally and an asset we have.
Point of clarity on that, that machine at the moment is just by Morrison's on Street Road. Yeah. If you go from the 20 zone into the 30, which to me seems the wrong way, surely it would be better coming from the 30 to the 20, and that you're going too fast.
Not going fast enough. Yes, Councillor.
If it would end up belonging to the town council, there is a budget line of £6,000 for equipment.
Yep.
£6,000 available. Which would become an item of
it would be.
town council.
Thank you. Yes, Councillor Price. That sounds a plan. Yes, Councillor.
May I propose, after this discussion and Lochabandu discovering where there's a bit of money that we can afford, that should the Speed Watch grant be successful and they receive their 5,000, that we agree to top it up with the extra 400 so that she can buy, so that they can buy, Speedwatch can buy the speed indicator sign to give to the council to become the council property. That's my proposal.
That's a proposing. Have we got a seconder, please? Councillor White to second it. You've got a point?
I just think there should be an amendment to say that we will pay the difference, because we don't know whether that's inclusive of VAT. We don't know whether it will go up.
Okay. The difference. Thank you. Did you? Yeah, pay the difference, basically. Fabulous. I will suffice.
Aye.
No, we'll vote.
Yeah, I'd really rather you vote on that.
Thank you very much. Okay, sorry.
Okay, so now to the big one. So it was decided that...
Sorry, Serena.
We need to vote.
Sorry, we actually do need to vote. Sorry, all
do
those
need to
in
vote.
favour,
Okay.
please hand to, thank you, pay difference. All those against? All those abstaining? Thank you. Motion carried. Thank you very much. Yes.
Okay, so now the big one. It was decided that people are having a really difficult time there in terms of money. You know, there's a cost of living crisis. There's also an energy bill crisis. People are having huge energy bills that they didn't used to have. And that what we could do is give them information, simple information on how to reduce your energy bills. So we decided what they call a 60L leaflet was fine. What you're seeing there is the front page, the back page, and what I call the inner back page. And then on the inside, very, very clear, are the 20 top tips. So these are very, very simple. And I've had my daughter look at it and she said, yep, a teenager could understand these. So these are all jobs. Do you remember we had the thermal imaging camera?
Mm-hmm.
And several of us spent with about a month, including Melissa, including myself and other people, going around people's houses
with the thermal imaging camera and discovering the sorts of jobs that you could do that would reduce your energy bill and keep your house warmer. And all these 20 top tips either come from there or come from other information from professionals. So we've taken them as really simple things like putting up blinds and curtains, you know, a very, very simple job, putting down carpets and rugs, those sorts of things, right through to the professional, very expensive jobs, cavity wall insulation, loft insulation, and so on. And this means that it's accessible for anybody to be able to do something in a very simple form. Now, what we would like to help the people of Glastonbury, this is about helping the people of Glastonbury. A lot of people are having to use food banks and so on. A lot of people finding the cost of living really difficult, is to actually produce this leaflet and have it delivered to every house in town. Now, Councillor Napper said earlier there's nothing to say it's from Glastonbury Town Council. That's because we haven't yet got Glastonbury Town Council approving the leaflet and wanting to send it out. If you do, then here, where there's nothing, is going to be supported by Glastonbury Town Council with the logo. Yeah, so that would be quite clear that the Town Council support it and that there's a logo. Until then, it's going to be slightly separate. But we couldn't put it on until the Town Council had agreed to support this and for it to go out in the Town Council's name. So that is one of the things we're asking for. And secondly, I've done the budget now.
Brilliant.
So in order for Royal Mail to deliver it to every single house in town will cost us £500. In order to print it like this, 60L on recycled paper, I've got 3 different quotes from 3 different printing companies, and the best quote is £360. So that's the best I could get on the recycled paper. Other ones, because of recycled paper, had it a bit more expensive. Now, somebody's already mentioned the Climate Emergency Committee budget. We've got £700 in there. I would like to ask them to support the printing, and I would like to ask the Town Council to support the distribution. Now, if you don't want to support the distribution, I will then need to ask for 18 people to give up 3 hours of their time for us to distribute it, to make sure that every house in town. So I think we have a choice. Either we need to get the manpower together, or people power, or women power, or child power, or whatever it is, to do the 3 hours each, 18 people, or the Town Council finds the budget from somewhere to help. One way or another, we're going to get it out there, because I think it's needed for the benefit of the town and the people in the town. But how we do it is up to you.
Thank you very much, Serena. So myself, Mike, and then Councillor Osborne. I love it. I'm a little bit concerned. Why is it so small? Why is the writing so small? Why is it?
No, this is being printed out small. Actually, when it's on full size.
Thank you. It's going to be.
It's not on. It's when it's on full size A4. It's going to be bigger.
Thank you. Yes, Councillor.
Thank you, Chair. As Serena says, this needs to get out to all households in the town. So I think to sort of extend this to schools and young persons would be a really good idea. So perhaps we could approach the scouts, the guides and different schools to ask for distribution in order to save £500 possibly. And if we can get litter pickers to come on a Sunday, surely we can get 18 people, including some school children, or possibly assisted scouts and guides, to distribute this to each house in town. And I'm very happy to draw up rounds of about 150 households each round, which will probably take about an hour and a half for someone to do, or 3/4 of an hour for 2 people to do. I'm very happy to draw up rounds suitable for distribution.
Thank you very much for these days.
When were you thinking of distributing the leaflets?
If we agree that we're happy for them to be printed and distributed, and we then finalise with the town council logo and that it's supported by the town council, then it will go back to the climate emergency group, which meets at the end of this month, for them to agree if they need to put some money into it. Then hopefully it will get out in October, because that's when it starts to get cold. So the idea is to try and get it out in October.
I just wondered whether there was an opportunity, because there's two costs here. There's the printing cost, and the larger part is the distribution. What people going around to every house in Glastonbury, are there any other messages that we need to get out to the community? One is, for instance, you're talking about the litter pick. I don't know if that's on there, but that's something. If it could be on there. Another thing which is close to my heart is we've got a bit of a pharmacy crisis happening in the town. A lot of people are getting quite worried about what is going to happen. And there are actually solutions out there. So it doesn't have to be as big as that, and it would be considerably cheaper. But you could have a small, a little leaflet, and you could have about the pharmacy on one side and about the litter pick on the other side, and that would be about £100 extra or something like that. It's not a great deal of money.
Oh, sorry, Councillor Osborne. Yeah, I just, maybe it's just me, but I actually think the tone of it is really, really patronising. To get a leaflet to tell you you'll stay warm by putting a bit of felt over your letterbox. I mean, it would be all right for a PSHE lesson in a primary school, this. That seems to me what it's aimed at. But to put this out at some expense, and I mean, ironically, to talk about litter picking when you're actually creating litter, because I don't think people are going to read this stuff. People don't read leaflets. They read what they see online. They read what they see on social media sites. But I think you are literally just creating paper to be recycled by doing this. And I think the people who do read it may well actually find it quite like, who the hell do you think you're talking to with this?
Thank you, Councillor Osmond. Councillor Henderson and then Councillor Much.
I think I take on board Councillor Osborne's points, but I think you've got to assume that people are going to read it. You can't just say, well, nobody's going to read this, so let's not do it. I think we've got to do something. And I think you have got to approach it from a kind of basic starting point. And things like just stopping drafts. That's something you might not think about, but it's, it's where you've got to start. And there are different levels of how to insulate your home. And I think that's a really good way of doing it. Small jobs that cost a bit more, professional jobs. You can read that and you can find your own path. Well, I can do that myself, but I might need somebody else to do that, or whatever. And I think we've got to get this out. And if people just chuck it in the bin, so be it. But the council is addressing a problem. And I think it's a good way of doing it. And yeah, I take my hat off to you, Serena. I think it's really good.
Thank you, Councillor Much.
May I make one small answer? Is that not everybody has the internet, and
exactly. Well, that was a point I was going to make. Yeah.
There's the older people, the people who feel the cold, and older people quite often are people who have less money, and so the paper leaflet coming through your letterbox, that was in order to get to everybody, not just those on the internet.
Sorry, Much quickly, and then.
Yeah, I've got to disagree with you, Lilith, on this, because a lot of people don't realise just how much difference a little draft makes. It's just astronomical. And something like a letterbox, a lot of people, they wouldn't think of that. No matter how old you are, It's not just children that don't know this stuff. And I remember, when I was in the Merchant Navy, we explored things like this. Survival. Most of the people that died at sea in the Second World War, where ships were sunk and they got in lifeboats, didn't die from drowning, they died from hypothermia. And so all the lifeboats had these things that you could put on with hoops. It's a short story. And the number of people that died unnecessarily because they did not put the boat cover over, or in an inflatable, they didn't just close the flaps because they're all exhausted or injured or whatever. Simple things like that can make the difference between life and death. Or in the case of your house, the difference between a great big heating bill and a much smaller one.
Thank you very much. Great insights.
thinking about what Councillor Manning was saying, and I remember when Reverend McGeoch came to speak to us about going out and speaking to members of the community to check in with some of those more vulnerable members of the community and think about combining those things, and delivering a leaflet and seeing a councillor might actually be, for some of our residents, quite welcome just to have a little check-in to see how that's doing.
Thank you. Yeah, I would be up for being one of those people actually delivering. I think actually delivering it ourselves, especially even in our wards, you know, using this time would be fabulous. Yeah, great. Was there any other hands? Yes, Councillor Osborne.
The government has put out television adverts with this stuff on.
I don't have a telly.
Neither do I, but I've just had it sent through. It's a campaign called, it's an advice campaign called It All Adds Up. The All Adds Up campaign highlights longer term energy efficiency upgrades, including installing loft and wall installation or fitting double glazing that people can make in their homes to save their energy bills.
That's great. Well, it's nice to know that we are aligning with the government, and then this is it on paper. Well, it's fine. This gives a little bit more than rather than a 3-second blip. They've actually got it on paper. So sorry. So,
I want to ask, as soon as everybody's discussed, is this council in favour of us doing the leaflet, in which case we put the logo on and say supported by the council? And then B, do we go for the climate emergency group paying for the cost of printing? C, do we cover the cost of distribution, or do we do it, you know, get the manpower, person power, child power ourselves to distribute? I think those are my 3 questions.
fantastic. So shall we take those one at a time? Fantastic. Are you proposing the first one? Are you proposing the first one? Yes.
I'd like to propose all 3, see if everybody agrees.
Can I just write a reply? Just wanted to ask whether that national campaign talks also about the small jobs that cost little, or whether it's more things that are. Yeah, because those jobs are really important for people. Yeah, so for people that aren't homeowners or on a small income, those top tips are quite helpful.
Fabulous, thank you. So going back to, can we just do it one at a time?
Yeah, let's do it.
Well, I'd like to do all 3.
Well, that's great. I'm very happy for you. If we could.
I'd like to propose that we accept this leaflet and that it's delivered to every household in town. I'd like to propose that the SEAC group pay for the 360, and the third thing is that we deliver it ourselves. And I'm very happy to aid with that.
Is everyone happy with that? Is everyone going to second that? Yeah.
Just one thing, I don't have any problem with us delivering it ourselves, but obviously nearer the time we need to make sure that is well coordinated. We don't want doubling up in some properties and missing others. So just if we go down that route, we've got to make sure we do it properly.
And you,
Mike is very good at coordinating.
I have.
He's got lots of experience.
I have 39 to 40 rounds, which will take about an hour each.
Brilliant.
You're doing them then. All those in favour? Yes, thank you.
Before you vote, I would like the opportunity at some point, and it's in a few weeks' time, before once the leaflet's agreed and everything, to have a final think. Is there any other message that we need to get out?
Yes.
So,
thank you very much. Yes, absolutely.
I should reply. To deliver 2 leaflets takes a lot longer than delivering 1, because you're having to fold them up and you're having to have 2 bags. So we'd have to consider the knock-on effect of having 2 leaflets and be prepared to ask for more volunteers.
Okay. I'm prepared to spend that extra.
I certainly agree that the council should support the leaflet. So for the printing part of it, the SEAC pays for printing, and somehow we arrange for them to go to all houses, whether that's by a postal drop or something else. So that's my only concern. Rather than bundle all of them in and say we will deliver by hand, that we might not, and it might turn out that the postie going round with the sort of monthly leaflet drop just does it.
It costs £500.
I know that. No, I know.
Yeah, I think it's that or nothing. It's all or one. But if we give ourselves time to the organise, and basically at the end of the day, if it isn't done, then it needs to go out. So somehow we are taking the responsibility of the distribution, I think is what we're saying around this table. So 1 point, that's the second point, and the third point is us taking responsibility. So do we have a seconder for that, please? Fantastic. May we please have all those in favour of those 3 points? Thank you very much. Do we have any against, please? And any abstainers? Thank you. That's 1 abstainer. Brilliant. That's great. Thank you
very much.
Looking forward to
If I-
that.
I have your worship.
Yes.
Get them to do that. There were 2 recommendations from the Arts, Culture and Events Advisory Committee. It has been asked that one of them is deferred until the next meeting.
Oh.
But it's up to members around the table whether you wish to. But there is a second recommendation there that I would appreciate if you would all consider.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Colin. Right, so is that point B2?
Yes.
All right, thank you very much. I proposed Dragon organised have loan of the Glastonbury Town Council's high-vis jackets and radios for their Dragons Parade on Saturday, 23rd of October. This was seconded by Councillor Cousins. So are we okay with that? I'm happy to post it again. Just to make a point that,
Sorry.
I'm sorry.
Just to make the point that we did loan these jackets previously for Beltane and also the radios, but the cheap radios, not the expensive radios, and they all came back in and they were all accounted for. So we have done it previously and it worked really well.
Thank you very much. I thought you wanted to say something awful.
Sounds good. I'm just going to say, make sure we check that everything that we give out comes back.
And I don't know if these are the cheap ones again that we're giving. I think I do remember there's something about discussion about using radios that were not there. Okay.
Yeah, there's 2 models of radio that we use. There's one that is now incredibly expensive to replace, and anyway, we only really have enough for the caretakers and staff here to use. But the Frost Fair purchased additional radios that are available to use, and rather than £140 a handset, I think they're about £20 a handset, but they all work together. So they're the ones we tend to allow groups to use.
So the people that are marshalling are volunteers, giving their time to come and do that and make it a really safe event and make sure that people are marshalled correctly.
Thank you very much. So yes, yes.
I wasn't able to make the arts culture meeting, but just a quick question to somebody who was there. Was the Christmas meal discussed for this year?
Yes, it was, and I believe that there's a day booked. Well, the team have started to...
Yes, it's Christmas Day. No, sorry, yes, the meeting. Yes, the meeting.
I think
It's in hand.
the crew have started.
Brilliant.
Have we got a date for that, Mark?
Looking, I think we had a date, and I can't remember where, but I've got a feeling it's quite soon, isn't it?
Could you circulate that date?
Yeah, I'll have a look for it.
We'd like to be involved in that again this year.
Perfect. We're relying on your elf.
Do we need to vote on that one?
Yes.
And I'm happy to propose that we do lend the high vis and the radios to the Dragon performance, whatever.
Thank you very much. I'll second. And we have a seconder from Councillor Price. All those in favour, please. Thank you very much. All those against? All those abstaining? Thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you for pointing that out. Brilliant. Right, moving on. Unitary Councillor reports. Hello, Unitary Councillor. Nice to have you.
I mean, if you want to know, I can tell you how depressingly overspent the council already is. Well, so basically, they're 28.6 million overspent, and that's on top of 18.5 million that they had as a saving by joining the 5 councils together, and also another 18 million that was left in reserves before they took over. So that's nearly 70 million in a year, which is why I laughed when somebody said, can we ask them for some money? I was like, we can ask, but we probably won't get it. What else have we got? Oh, there's a whole load of stuff which I don't know how is the new COVID-19 vaccination and who it's going to be available to. Do we want to know that? And similarly, the flu vaccinations, I think, are now being offered to school-age children on the basis that they think they're catching it at school and taking it home and spreading it to the community, even to preschool-age children, as well as the people who are not offered to do vaccinations. Then, I don't know, did everybody hear about the arson attack on the Somerset?
Oh no, sorry.
No, this was on buses owned by the Somerset Council. So police are investigating suspected arson attack in Taunton, which destroyed 7 minibuses. It was done on Thursday the 24th of August in a secure compound that was locked. So it seems a bit mystifying, but yeah, there was a huge loss there. And then there's roundabout sponsorship. So this is to try and encourage local businesses, and they are going to be slightly selective, that it's local businesses advertising socially responsible goods and services, to be able to put up advertising on roundabouts all around Somerset. So if anybody knows someone who might want to do that, and it's to try and raise more money that will go straight into the highways, who are always short of money.
I think we've already had a couple of panel applications with regards to that.
Yeah, I don't think that's going to Somerset.
Just a reminder about single-use plastic bans. So I think that comes into force on the 1st of October, and it's sandwich bars, takeaways, care homes can no longer use certain types of plastic items, plastic trays, plates, knives and forks, bowls, balloon sticks, and some polystyrene cups. So, you know, you'd like to think that will make a difference to all the unrecyclable waste that we seem to have all over the place. You know, it's a step in the right direction.
Oh yeah, no single-use plastic.
And then they're also piloting the recycling of soft plastic. So, you know, at the moment we have to peel off the wrappers. So I think in some parts of the county, they're doing a trial to a pilot. It's involving 3,600 homes in Frome. And that's going on until the end of May to see how financially viable and whether it's something that will work. So. And then there's also on the 3rd of October a temporary road closure in Beer Lane for drainage works. So not great that there's a road closure, but yes, great that drainage works, and that not even emergency vehicles will be able to pass through. So that's it.
Thank you.
Very much. Yes, Councillor.
Thank you for that. Is there talk down at Taunton, because of the overspend, is there talk of a 141 agreement? Because there are some counties which are going into 141 agreements, and I believe that the precept is going to be increased by 10% immediately, which could cause a lot of problems. And I just wonder, from what I hear in the media, whether that is going to be an option for Somerset County. Thank you.
Unfortunately, there has been talk of it, and there has been talk of it right from the get-go with their first proposed budget. So the recent executive report describes the council's financial position as stark and challenging. So,
Stark and challenging.
Yeah, yeah. It's not a good situation. And, you know, their response to it seems to be, oh, well, it's the same everywhere.
No, it's not.
No.
No, I disagree with that totally. But,
yeah, I think we are really kind of, yes, in a better situation financially.
I mean, we always have been. We've always picked the lower fruits and salami slicing, which I hate that word. But I just think that we're on the edge of a precipice if we do go into this 141 agreement. And like I say, 10% is added to our precept immediately by all accounts, which
I think,
is
I'm
alarming.
sure we've never been loaded financially, you know, in some, we've had loads of, but they were left with £18 million in their reserves. So there was money that has already got, you know, all extra bits of money and now into an overdraft situation. So I think it's kind of worse than historically it has been. I'm not in charge of it.
No.
It's only Nick was here, he can explain it all.
So we have a question over here. Thank you, Councillor.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. As much as many people around this table and 2/3 of Somerset opposed the unification, if you like, the unitary authority, 2/3 opposed it, and we can understand why now, hearing the diabolical financial strait that the county are in. This is a matter concerning finances. Would Councillor Hart be as kind to support other Councillor Cottle in aligning this part of Somerset with the rest of Somerset in that we receive community infrastructure levies instead of 106 money to make it easier to access community funding, community projects? I'd be very happy if you would support that.
Yeah, I mean, there's lots of discussion about that because it does seem like a more fair system, but, you know, we haven't had an actual decision saying, yes, it will happen. So, but I do support it, yes.
Thank you. Questions? So Councillor Cottle has emailed. People have seen it. I do have one comment on it, and I don't know if you can answer this, Councillor Hart. That's a question, I suppose. But it says here, so this is about the overspend, and apparently it's 2 social care services are currently projected to overspend. So do we know how that is going to be picked up, or how is going to be picked up? A service is going to be dropped?
No, they can't. I mean, that's the one thing they can't do. So they absolutely, like, I believe they have a legal obligation that children's services and adult care have to be funded no matter what. And so
statutory elements of the service.
Yeah. I mean, it's obviously a scary situation. Hopefully it won't happen. You know, and there is no real blueprint for exactly what happens in the circumstances that it does occur. So there are cases where central government gives money and pulls them out of the pit, but it, you know, there's no guarantee that that will happen. I think the most common thing is that they're told, the council, whoever it is that go into this situation, are told that they have to decide what assets they have that they can sell to try and get themselves out of it. Yeah. So, you know, there's a whole process that would take place if that were to happen. I think the idea behind giving warnings like the one that I quoted is to try and make them think, actually, maybe let's not continue to fund some of what might be considered pet projects because, you know, you can't do the fun stuff or the lovely stuff
you've got to focus on the really important things that we all need, you know, to be able to carry on, like social health and children's services. But yeah, but there are other things that, in my opinion, could be cut that aren't of that ilk. So you'd like to think that they might, you know, try and pull back on some of those things. Yeah.
The one that comes to my mind is that, is it a theatre or something at Yeovil with like 20 million quid or whatever, 28 million, and so say, and
I mean, it's a lovely idea if you've got the spare money. Yeah.
The optic.
Yeah. And then, but there are other things, aren't there, Terry, that have come. And I think what they are, a lot of these are things that have come historically to the new Somerset Council from the various districts, that were things that they'd pledged to do. And, you know, they're trying to hold it all together, and hopefully they'll work it out and realise that some of these things cannot go ahead.
Yeah.
That's what you'd like to think will happen.
Thank you. Now, it's the quote by Councillor Liz Nation, where she says, obviously repeatedly using council reserves to fund day-to-day services cannot continue without putting the financial viability of the council at risk. So it just seems a bit open-ended, and just one we need to keep an eye on. I think, but thank you very much, Councillor Hurt. Yes,
More reason for us to work on our resiliency plans, isn't it?
Yeah, exactly. And council cohesion, town cohesion and resilience. And thank you very much. Do we have any other points on either that or Councillor Bottom's start?
It's just that I would like to say that I believe that it's about 52% of the preset which is spent on childcare and social services, which is one big heck of a lump.
Yeah.
Even more now, is it?
Yeah. Well, they are half our population, so
it is one heck of a thing.
Thank you very much for that. Brilliant. Let's move on. It is coming up to 1:15. We'll do a little reminder at 1:30. But if we could crack on, that would be great. Verbal updates from representatives to outside bodies. Yes, thank you.
So there isn't much to say about the town deal at the moment. Paperwork's all sort of chugging along. The Abbey Piazza should start in October.
I hear they're going to call it not the Piazza.
Yeah, not the pizza. We were talking about Abbey pizzas, and they were like, really? So is that what's happening? So anyway, the Abbey destruction and rebuild should start next month and should be finished about May or June next year.
Right.
So that's very good. This council did a wonderful job appointing Dowless as our Dunstan House contractor. So the people who Matt and Gemma are pulling in, structural engineers, electrical, ventilation, heating, are like professional, knowledgeable and enthusiastic. So I think we will have a very good project. So yeah, there'll be more to talk about at our next. Yeah.
Osborne? I'd like to ask a question about what's going on with the St Bride's Mound project, because when I first joined the council, I recall that we were told that we couldn't change anything on the town deal. It was absolutely set in stone. And indeed, one of the things I rather liked the sound of was a little bus that would go there, and then there'd be a visitor centre, and it'd be all singing, all dancing, and it would all be lovely. And then I read on Facebook the other day that it's not going to be anything like that at all. It's just going to be a hut with some, it's just going to be a little hut with some like information boards and a bit of hard standing for parking. Now that seems to be a real rollback of what was actually proposed.
Can I just ask, where did you get that information from?
Friends of St Bride's Mound Facebook page.
Would Serena like to?
So it's been a long process. We've been working on this for 4 years now. The initial idea, as you said, was for it to be a visitor centre. But when we were doing what's called the Green Book, which had to be done in order for the government to give us the money, Mott MacDonald were the consultants who were employed by the Town Deal Board to do that. And we had long discussions with them, and they said within our budget, we couldn't have a full-blown visitor centre. What we could have was an educational meeting space. So what is proposed is what was originally proposed, is to build a roundhouse. So that was the original proposal. But rather than it having a cafe and a shop and 3 toilets, it's going to be 1 toilet. It's going to be a place for making cups of tea and a sink. And it's going to be used for educational purposes, so both children as a school, and for Somerset Wildlife Trust groups that are going for the wildlife, and for South West Heritage Trust, the archaeology people, and other people who want to use it as a meeting space. The boards on the outside, the information boards, that was always part of the plan. So it's been rolled back a little bit because of what was needed for the business case for it to be approved by the government. But that was merely their requirements, not what we wanted. We've merely adapted to fit into what we were told we were going to be allowed to do. And so the planning application that's gone through has gone through for that 9-metre roundhouse. And there's a community interest company called POD, Power of Doing, and they're going to be managing the roundhouse and taking bookings for groups who want to use it.
I mean, a cafe would have actually maybe generated some income. I mean, I think it's a really big loss, because I think it was one of the few bits, for me, one of the few bits of the town deal that actually sounded quite exciting. And I mean, I'm just wondering, I mean, I understood with the town deal that they were supposed to be getting money from other sources. Pride is one of the patron saints of Ireland. I mean, I would have thought perhaps the church or even the Irish embassy or something might have been prepared to.
Unfortunately, that business case, that green book, was something that we just had to accept what they said we should do. I totally agree with you. That's what we wanted to do. Friends of Iceland wanted to have that as an all singing and dancing visitor centre. We were told categorically within the town deal fund, the money from the town deal, even though we're getting National Heritage Lottery funding to help subsidise it all and add in extra money, that it's become a meeting space. Now, maybe in time, once we've got it all built and up and running, then that little kitchen area can support a cafe. There will be the 1 disabled toilet that, okay, that's just going to be 1 toilet, but then if you look at the red brick, it's much the same. So maybe it could then expand again. But in the meantime, with regard to the town deal money, we had to go with what we were told we were. Like you, I'm like, no, that wasn't what we wanted, but we've had to accept that this is all we did.
So is there any other projects that are actually being rolled back?
Rather than having a conversation, yes, there are. The money side of it has gone down. It's nothing to do with this council.
No, that.
So, thank you, Councillor.
Chair, I think the crux of the matter is, and with all the projects, is that 23.6 million isn't worth what it was when we were awarded the money. You know, the Tour Leisure project has been reined back a fair bit. I would imagine all the Burt project has been rescheduled because we've had to cut our cloth according to our cloth. And I think that's just a fact of the circumstance we live in at the moment, that building materials and costs have gone through the roof, and that money doesn't go as far as we hoped it would.
Thank you for that, Councillor Henson. Yes.
Quick right to reply. So to both, actually, central government said there's no more money. So there is what there is. Tour Leisure, they were very good. So their project manager, Rob, I think his name is, he said, okay, we're changing our project to fit within the money that we have.
Exactly.
You know, and so that was the first one to sort of come above the parapet and say, yeah. And so we said, right, great idea. And but I think you're discussing that. We're discussing that with them here. We're sort of, we think we'll get money, but and then some of the stuff might be beyond the town deal. So after that, we can then pull those other things in and do the things that we would.
Might it be an idea to do a few things well rather than everything
I think the projects are all good.
Conversation. Okay, obviously, these, if you want to find out more about the projects and actually get updated rather than commenting, then please do that. I think it's been a very long process, so let's not get into a conversation. Thank you. Any more representatives, please, from outside bodies?
Lindsay had sent an LCN report. I saw that today. More or less what she discussed last time. Yeah.
All right. Thank you. Everyone's got that. Brilliant. Thank you. Is that all updates from representatives outside bodies? Fabulous. Thank you very much. I have no announcements at the time, except thank you for everyone who participated and came to the Mayor's Sunday. No correspondence, communications or announcements.
If I may, Your Worship, sorry. I have two, if I may. Would members of the staffing committee consider changing the date of their next meeting? So there was a meeting scheduled for the 26th of September, Tuesday. I unfortunately can't make that date anymore, so I was maybe hoping that the staffing committee could meet on Monday the 25th of September. It could be something that we liaise with over email outside of this meeting, but I wanted to ask the question because unfortunately something's come up that wasn't in my diary when...
It'd be better for me.
When we set the date.
25th?
Yes.
Fine for me.
Better for me.
Oh, it's the climate group. Oh, on the top. That's usually 7 o'clock, yes? Yes. Yeah. I may be a bit late, but that's fine. Is that fine?
Yeah, that's absolutely fine. Thank you. I will put that date in the calendar, and when I issue the agenda, I'll make sure that's drawn notice to. Thank you so much. And Councillor Smythe, could I potentially ask that we meet on another date regarding trees and public footpaths? Because again, this Friday is the Somerset branch meeting of the Society of Local Council Clerks. I'd really like to go to that, and I wouldn't be able to get back here for 2:30. I have got all the footpath signage here. If you or Mr. Bloom would like to come and pick it up from the information centre, it's available if you want to make a start on some of that. But could we perhaps liaise outside of this meeting and meet on another afternoon or morning to suit yourself? That's fine. But yes, if we could change the date, that'd be great. Yeah, excellent. Thank you so much. That's all I have. Thank you, Your Worship.
Could you inform Dr. Bloom?
I shall. Thank you.
Thank you. Any more correspondence, communications, announcements?
Quick one, Chair. There's a organisation called Lost Projects, which is based up at the industrial unit on Wells Road by CIS. About 3 years ago, they started putting together a skateboard park and graffiti and music production sort of thing in an old disused bus. YMCA have been involved. I'm not sure how much, but anyway, cut a long story short, they are having an open day this Saturday. Runs from 10 till 7, I believe. They're asking for funding from businesses and individuals. They're a CIC now, and I think they're on the verge of getting more funding, but it seems they're at a crux or a point where they're just about to sort of make a big jump into sort of doing something really worthwhile. And it's music-based, graffiti-based, skateboard-based, dance-based, and it's creating a lot of activities for people, for kids who need something in that vein. So,
where is it again?
it's on the industrial site on Wells Road. So where CIS is further along than that, isn't it? Yeah.
Next door to Sparko.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Place used to be.
Okay, open day.
On Saturday, 10 o'clock till 7, I think.
Yeah, I will be there. With some
There's
fantastic
a couple of little
projects.
letters of blurb there if you need.
Perfect.
Have a
Thank
look.
you very much for bringing that up, Catherine. They have basically spent their own money and their own time putting this together because they were teenagers. Okay. Fabulous. Thank you very much. Right. Do we have any items for news release, please?
Your Worship, I have noted to share the photographs we took this evening of the certificate presentation to PC Popal and the accompanying text from the police that you all agreed on that basis to award the certificate, and also to advertise the litter picks. I've already noted those, Your Worship.
Brilliant, thank you very much. Right, review actions arising from this meeting.
Sorry, yes. I have taken an action to strongly invite the police to the next meeting. Maybe I have to bribe them with sweets or donuts or something. I'm going to ask Melissa to circulate the report we've received on the plans to reduce the energy demand for the town hall, a draft, and send a letter of support for the Glastonbury production company, as was agreed after their presentation this afternoon, to advertise the litter picks, to put together and release the piece on PC Popal's certificate of recognition. I'm to liaise with Councillor Smythe and Dr Bloom regards a new date to discuss trees, footpaths and whatever else they wish to at that date. Thank you for changing that, and also to change the date for the staffing committee to the 25th, which again, thank you. So they're the actions I've noted, Your Worship.
Thank you very much, Maya. That was great. Thank you very much. Oh, we are back on 9:30. Good us. So, but for this last item, if we are proposing to suspend standing orders.
Not all of them, Your Worship, just 3X, please. 3X. Otherwise we go into the ether and you can't do anything.
3X. Sorry, gosh. Okay. Basically, this is where, if we could please ask that the members of the public depart and may be released whilst we go into a private council. Thank you.
So could you, someone propose to suspend standing order 3X, someone second, and then for a vote to be taken, please, Your Worship, so we can continue the meeting to discuss the confidential item. Otherwise, we have to end.
Lovely. I propose to suspend standing orders 3X and to extend the meeting to discuss a confidential item. Who would like to second it, please? Thank you very much. All in favour, please, of extending? Thank you very much. I think that's unanimous. Thank you very much.
Okay. Who seconded it? Sorry, I was just speaking with... Oh,
okay.
Lots of people.
2 seconds. Thank you very much. Good evening.
Thank you.